Welcome, everybody. Coming at you live from New York. This is Spirit Matters. I'm your host, Al Grunga, along with Jamuna Jaya, who's joining us from Jersey City, way over there. Hope the weather's okay for you out there in Jersey City, which we realized a couple of days ago that in a few years from now, you may be in a different time zone.
Time zone.
If New York refuses to follow a daylight savings time, but New Jersey still follows it. So
Well said.
she's out there in New Jersey, but we try to include people from New Jersey in our community. Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
sorry. No, my wife is from New Jersey. And we're so glad you're here. It's been wonderful having you. We've had you here twice this week. This is the third time to close out the week. Thank you so much. If you have not listened to Jamuna Jaya this week, please go back and listen, because she's a beautiful bright light of wisdom and joy and energy. And so we're so grateful. And how you doing this morning? How was your day thus far?
I'm great. I always teach a yoga class right from here. That's one of my, obviously for a while, all my classes were here. This is my last one that's just here. So it's sort of nice. I love my commute on Friday mornings. So,
Which is from your bed to your side
yeah,
room?
my bed to the main room. Basically, my apartment basically just has 2 rooms. So it's just from there to there. So love the commute. It's
Beautiful,
quite
beautiful,
nice.
beautiful. This week we've been talking about it's one of the things that you're such a positive person, and you're such an optimistic person, and you're such a humble person. And you bring a beautiful, beautiful energy. And you were asking this question about asking what went right, as a practice. That was a takeaway. And you were sharing how this past year your family has really been put through the ringer, specifically with your sister's illness
Mhm.
that has shook your family in a big way. And you've been asking that question to yourself and to your family. And some people think that's a really cool question, great. And some people, like your brother,
Mhm.
has struggles with that a lot. And I wanted to tease out a little bit what you would share. We're going to get right into it. Just share with people, because it's a beautiful question. And what would you speak or say to people that struggle with that question? Like, what went right? But when we look around, it just seems like nothing's going right. It seems like everything's going right for other people,
Mhm.
but it seems that that things aren't going right for me, even whether it's materially or spiritually. And I
Mhm.
think that sometimes it's easier said than done, or sometimes it's 2020 is always hindsight, and it's easy to look back. And so how do we navigate that question when it really seems like nothing is going right?
Yeah, I
or
mean,
or I have a follow-up question, but
yeah,
I'll wait.
yeah. That's such a good question. And when I asked that question on Christmas Eve, I could see the people that were thinking one way and thinking people the other. Raghunath Kapil always says, zoom the hell out. He says, zoom the hell out. This is the opposite. This is, for me, is zoom the hell in, to look at, because I think what most people look at is the grand scheme. It's sort of like people look at the wedding as opposed to the marriage. People look at, in our tradition, the initiation day as opposed to the daily practice. And like what we're right focuses on the minutia. It's like, and I always try to, like, in my own life, it's like, it's not that all of a sudden my apartment isn't, all of a sudden in basking light, and all of a sudden I don't have a yard where I can grow corn, right? I'm still in a basement apartment that is old all the time. But you look at the minutia, and I really, when I do it, I'm like, my electric toothbrush worked this morning. Like, the PATH train came. The F train, well, this is actually some big thing. The F train actually
The F
delivered
train.
me in good time
What, the F
to,
train?
the subway train that takes us to the Bhakti Center actually delivered me on time. And I think that's when you really see, like, it really is inconceivable how much does go right, like, all the time. And it's things we take for granted, like electricity. This little, whatever this is, that I don't understand how this happens. And the fact we were also, I press, Dial sends me a Zoom link. It has a lot of numbers. I press it. I see Kimberly and Pasha and Doyle. That doesn't have to go right. And so, like, I'm not on social media, much to the frustration of a lot of people. And I refuse to get on the Twitter or the Instagram. It's always funny if you put that in front of it. Because, but what I understand goes on a lot is people put the big rights on there. They put the big, I got a promotion, I got a thing. And that doesn't happen all the time. It just doesn't, because that's not what the world does. But every day there's tiny things. So I think that zooming in, like every little thing, like I wear contact lenses and these for those things. I have two different things going on, but my contact lens popped out. I found it. Yay. I'm not going to like make it a Facebook post, but when I reflect back, it is a good thing.
Found my contact lens.
I got, yeah, who's going to like me for that? But since I'm as blind as a freaking bat, that is a big deal, so, so that's what I always think. It's like, there was a scene from Sex and the City eons ago. And sometimes you see these things and it just, the way they did it, just like, that's always the example I think of. So
you're not on the Twitter, but you're on the Sex and the City.
Yeah, the Sex and the City. But this is back in the day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. There's an expression. Back in the day
when she was watching it on flip television. She wasn't streaming. She was not streaming it.
It wasn't streaming it. And there was an antenna.
She was running to the bathroom during commercials.
That's right. You had to show up.
She was watching the VHS tape recording because she couldn't make it live on Wednesday nights.
On Wednesday nights. Yes, back in the day.
I watched You've Got Mail on the plane when on my way back from India.
Oh my God,
Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. That was back in the day.
That's back in the day. And then when I talk to my mother, of course, she's like, "That's not back in the day. Let me tell you about back in the day." I'm like,
"Back in the day."
Yes, Mom. When things were a nickel. I'm like, "What's even a nickel?" Mom's like, "Well, that's I'm like, quick
nickel.
Sidebar.
Is that a form of Bitcoin?
Like, yeah,
is that a cryptocurrency?
Like, what is a nickel? Mom is all about avocado toast. She's like, "That's a thing now?" Well, back in the day, we used to do that all the time.
A nickel. What's a nickel?
It's a nickel.
Kimberly, do you know what a nickel is?
Does she even know what a nickel is? She does.
She does. She knows what a nickel.
I have some.
She has some. She has some. I've seen a few. I have them in my 90s time capsule.
But who knows what a token is for the subway? That's even more. Any New Yorkers remember what a token is, or whatever we have to put it in. No, they don't know what a token is.
No idea. Token.
No idea.
What are you talking
about? All right.
So you were watching your VHS recording of Sex and the City because you missed it live.
Yes, because I missed it live. And because back then you had to commit to your television. You couldn't take it on your phone. And one of the characters was getting married. And I think she'd been married before. And it was one of those picture perfect weddings where everything looked really beautiful and whatnot. In this wedding, everything's going wrong. Like someone was on her dress and the cake wasn't right. And she was in the bathroom crying because all the optics of the wedding were all wrong. Like guests weren't there. The flowers weren't good. And her friend came in, she said, "Stop it. You're missing it." And she said, the distraught bride said, "What?" And the friend said, "Your wedding." Because she was so focused on everything that went wrong. And she wasn't focusing on what went right. And I think, that's, it's like it's that old joke of like somebody loses their contact lens or something, and they're looking for it outside, and somebody goes, "What'd you lose? Your contact lens?" And he said, "Do you lose it out here?" And the person says, "No, I lost it outside." And and the other person says, "Well, why are you looking out here?" And the person says, "Because this is where the light is, underneath the street lamp," or whatever, and so that joke is the epitome of, like, I think the looking. We look too much for the Grand Canyon, and then we don't see everything else. And that reminds me of something. Pema Chodron, the Buddhist writer, she once said about, we spend our lives like we're standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon with a paper bag over our heads. Like there's so much here, but we don't see it because we're trying to or like sports analogy, we're all trying to hit it out of the park. Baseball is a game of runs and bases. My brothers taught me it's base runners and long ball. It's not home run every time, and we tend to look for the giant thing and then we overlook all the little things. So
Mm.
when people have a hard time, it's like you have to like zoom in and like really go. I mean, even like right now, like my alarm went off. I woke up. My husband woke up. A
So
friend of
far, so
mine,
good.
so far so good. A friend of mine hasn't had water in her apartment for a month. How often do we think about, we turn on that tap, somehow miraculously water, and warm water too, comes out. I didn't lose my contact lenses. My electric toothbrush did work. I managed to get in my RT and my morning prayers before I taught. There were people at my class. My Zoom worked. I made it here. It's like, so much goes right.
Yeah, and what I'm taking away and appreciating so much that I've been reflecting on is the idea that we ultimately take responsibility for our experience in life. And
Yeah.
the question we get to ask ourselves is what experience do I want to have? And at a certain point as adults, it's very easy to blame people and things for my experience of life,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that what spiritual life gives us is the opportunity to rewrite the script of how I experience life. And so when we look at this practice of what went right or gratitude or trying to notice the minutia of things, it's something that we have to do. It is really genuinely something that is almost like a training ground for rewiring the way I experience my life.
Yeah.
Do I want to experience life from a more grateful, joyous, appreciative, like we get to take the responsibility to determine how I want to live and experience life. And this, it's almost just like this is the training ground for it,
Mm-hmm.
and how I want to rewire my heart and my brain to soften in a way. And so I really appreciate that. And I think it's a really beautiful meditation and reflection.
And I agree with that totally, because one of the things that my sister's illness is progressive, and this disease is very efficient. It's doing its job. It's not going to stop. It's not going to reverse. So when the new year came and a member of my family said, I hope 2023 is a better year, I said, the only way it can be a better year is the only place anything can be experienced. And it's our choice to experience it.
Mm,
Because the fact is, my sister's not going to get better. My mother is not going to get younger. These are two realities that I keep at the forefront of my experience pretty much every day, to know that in not so long a time, I'm going to be without people that I love very much. It's a fact. I know it. So that the only way that this year or any other year could be better is my own experience up here. And that is something like when it came to know that, and through yoga, that's the power. That's the only way it can be either better. I can choose to be like, oh crap, is this the phone call? How much did she deteriorate? Did mom fall? I can live in there, or I can live in the gratitude of my sister's in a wonderful facility. She is well cared for. We can take care of her. Mom is my husband is, so it really is, because one of the things that I always knew it, but my sister's illness and the crisis behind it has really taught me that it is my own experience, and I choose. I can either dwell on the bad every single day, because it's very clearly there, or I can claim on the good. And that, when I was trying to explain that to family members, like, that's the way we're going to have a better year, guys. It's
mm.
nothing external is going to change here. That's not going to happen. That is not an option for this scenario. So the only thing I can change is what is actually the only thing I ever could change, and the only thing I could actually control. And that's always the good news to me, anyway.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I as you said the other day, you never go wrong when you're turning towards the Gita. So I was going to connect this to where we've been reading, we
Mm-hmm.
meaning just in general on the podcast. You've been in the fourth chapter of the Gita, and there's this. We've been in the fourth chapter, so I'm going to turn to verse 22 of the fourth chapter. And Krishna mentions, because there's a lot of talk about self-satisfaction. There's a lot of talk about not like overly endeavoring for things
Mhm.
and being detached and being self-satisfied. Christy even uses this word independent, in the sense of independent from the idea that I need something outside of myself in order to feel happy. Um, and and so it's because it also informs the way that we pray. Sometimes people pray for
Mhm.
me, or somebody has an illness, and I think about that often. Like when I pray, normally we think, please pray that this illness gets taken away, or please pray that I get the job, or please
Mhm.
pray that we make it there safely, and those kind of things. And I always think like, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't even know if that's the best thing to happen. Who knows
Mhm.
what the best thing is? Who
Mhm.
knows if you should or shouldn't get that job? Or who knows if that relationship should or shouldn't work out? Like, I don't know. But what I do pray is that, please, please, whatever is best for them, may it take place. And whatever
Mhm.
happens, may they have the strength, and may they have the inspiration to grow through it, to find joy and happiness on the other end of it, to come closer to you, Krishna, through it. And it changes the way I pray about my own life.
Mhm.
Praying about making certain things happen, um, when I don't even always even know what's best.
Mhm.
I don't even know what I need. I have a
Yeah.
sense of what I want or what I think is best for me. And we've talked about this a lot on the show about like, do I actually want the things that I want, or do I just want the things that I think the thing I want will give me? You know, I want love, intimacy, and connection. And I think it's coming through him or through her or through them. I think, and so I'm praying for that person to fall in love with me. But actually, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe I'm looking for love and connection, but it's not over there. It's over there.
Mhm.
Or I'm looking for purpose, and I'm looking for fulfillment. And I think it's going to come in that job and in that career. And so I'm praying for that career. I'm praying for that job. And then I don't get it. It's like, oh, it's like, maybe I didn't need that in order to find fulfillment and purpose and satisfaction. And so sometimes,
Mhm.
in so many ways, we don't get what we quote unquote prayed for. And that doesn't mean that God's not listening. It doesn't mean that like nothing is working out. It just means I need to start looking differently for ways to experience God's presence in my life. And so there's this verse in the fourth chapter of the Gita, which is where we are reading. It's verse 22. And Krishna says, one who is satisfied, this is 422, one who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord. Meaning I'm not over endeavoring. I'm not like going out of my way to try to make things, to force things a certain way. Whoever's satisfied with gain, which comes of his own accord, meaning like, wow, whatever comes into my life, I'm expressing gratitude for it. Like, wow, my electric toothbrush works, which makes me think that maybe your electric toothbrush doesn't work as often as it should.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't. I have just a regular toothbrush. Who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. I'm going to read it again. One who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. And Srila Prabhupada has a beautiful commentary. I'll just read a sentence or two. A Krishna conscious person, and I love, we use this phrase often, Krishna conscious or Krishna consciousness, but I think
Mhm.
what you've been saying, what you've been sharing this entire time, Jamuna, is Krishna consciousness, is God consciousness, is spiritual awareness, where I'm zooming in and looking at the ways that things are going right, looking at the ways in which like spirit is showing up in my life, looking at the ways in which Krishna is there with me.
Mhm.
And so a very spiritually aware person does not make much endeavor even to maintain the body. They're satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He says they neither beg nor borrow, but labors honestly as far as in their power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by their honest labor. And so
Mhm.
they do not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness, meaning that like I'm not depending on somebody else to come in and make my spiritual life successful.
Mhm.
And I'm not coming in and depending on something outside of myself to fall into place. in order for me to feel Krishna's presence in my life. And so I just wanted to share that and get your thoughts on that and that verse. I wanted to read that and put that out there for us and relate that to what we've been sharing.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that you said, and one of the things about the prayer and that getting the thing you want is not the thing, it's how that thing might make you feel, kind of thing. And it's that classic of, you can't always get what you want, but if you try some hard, you just might find you get what you need. And I always think about that a lot. So that was one of the things that you said. And about praying, it's just when it came through, I just wanted to articulate that, because I always had a difficult time. I didn't know how to pray, because I understand I didn't want the whole thing about not making Krishna your Amazon Prime, transcendental Amazon Prime. I got that. I really got that. And I didn't. So then I was stuck. I didn't know what to say. And so there's two things I always like to say, because if there might be other people that are stuck like there's two things that I got, is that one thing that Krishna appreciates you're wanting to pray. The fact that you want to pray for someone is really beautiful, and Krishna sees your intention. So I love that part. And then it's only as Danyadhara Swami, he said, well, if you have something like that, you say, Krishna, if you think it's a good idea, can this happen? Or if you think it's a good idea, grant them this or that. So it's asking, but it's saying, Krishna, if you think it's a good idea, it's not what I want, it's what you want. And so whenever I have one of those things, when I hear, particularly if I'm praying for someone, I'm like, Krishna, if you think it's a good idea, if not, then that's cool, but just asking it. And then, so that, because I was always kind of stuck. I'm like, I don't want to be beggy. I'll be good if you give me this, because it's just the worst. And so those two things really help me, that the intention to pray, Krishna sees as a really good thing. And then and I love that point, when you think it's a good idea. And then about the verse, sorry,
Krishna's like a big Santa Claus.
Yeah, right, exactly. Krishna, can I this and that and the other thing?
Have you been good?
Have you been good? And about that verse, it's like all those verses, when I first read them, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I want to be free from envy. I want that. I want to be okay like that. That sounds good. But then my question was always like, okay, how the heck do I do that? And I do believe that this zooming in is or in this way, it's a zoom in and zoom out, because it's something Kastuba said once, that we have to have a higher goal to understand. Well, first of all, you have to see that higher perspective, that everything in the world is just going to change. And I always think the expression change is good or change is bad is a misnomer. Change just is. Like in this world, everything's going to change. And so what does the Bible say? It says, if you build your castles on grains of sand, they're going to get washed away. It's a fool's errand. The Buddhists get it right. First noble truth of Buddhism: life is suffering. Why? Because we attach to things that are temporary. So to achieve this kind of samattham, that kind of equanimity where things going to go, is to ride above the fact that things are going to change. And that's what I think about when I read verses like that. I'm like, yes, the way to get this beautiful way, that I'm going to be okay no matter what happens. The verse that always gets me is the one about being the same in heat and cold, because I'm so not the same. Cold cranks me out. I mean, I live in a basement apartment. I have a space heater right behind me. I'm wearing a scarf. It's almost May. Cold cranks me out. I always wear socks. So when I read that verse, I'm like, really? No, not the same at all. But when I go,
Christian has never been in Jersey City in the winter.
In a basement apartment, Christian, with a floor is freaking tile. It's not the same at all. But when I rise above, when I think about rising above and attaching oneself to that which is permanent, that does not change. And that is hooking into the spiritual energy. I think that is hooking into Krishna and knowing even what we are, when that, Bhagavad Gita 101, first thing Krishna lays down: never was a time that you did not exist, nor meaning of those kings, there never is a time when you cease to be. That we are the unchangeable. Everything else is the changeable. And when I really think about that, that's when I can ride the waves of everything else. And it's like, for a while, Mom got into jigsaw puzzles at the beginning of pandemic, something to do because her life shut down. So we sat there. I'm horrible, and I don't have patience for jigsaw puzzle. She's really good at it, and so is Jimmy. So the two of them would sit there and nerd out about the pieces, and I couldn't, like, it's very hard for me. I would always have to stand up and look down at it to see the pattern. And that's what I think about it. I have to stand up and look down because otherwise it looks like a jumble of colors and shapes. And so whenever I think of this concept of like going above, we have to rise up because otherwise it looks incomprehensible that there's a pattern there. So
beautiful. Thank you. I'm
Krishna,
gonna make a note. Don't invite you over for jigsaw puzzle night.
Okay.
We got
So
we got Kimberly. I had pulled up a quote that I wanted to share, but I'll share that my takeaway. Kimberly, what kind of takeaways you got for us that you've been having for us? Because we're at our time here. We want to invite you in.
All right. Zoom the hell in.
There you go. Done.
Don't overlook the minutia searching for the Grand Canyon. Our life experience is our responsibility. Krishna appreciates our intention to pray. Asking Krishna, do you think it's a good idea? And change just is. Thank you.
Beautiful. What are you walking away with today, this week, Jamuna Jai? What are your closing words for everybody?
Association is just so powerful. It's been nice to have this time. It's when to say something is to really hear it again. So even though there's things that I've heard over and over again, I just having them come out of my mouth makes me hear them again. So it more deeply embeds it in me. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Beautiful, beautiful. I pulled up this quote as we were thinking about prayer, attributed to Gandhi. He said, prayer is not asking. It is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weakness. It is better in prayer to have a heart without words than words without a heart. And so I think that sometimes we think this like formulation of what I want and give me what I want, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes a prayer doesn't even have words. And that's a lot of my experience, what I try to have my experience in kirtan of, and I think that we have the opportunity in our practice, whether it's in our japa and our kirtan, when we're singing kirtan, is that it's just an exposure of our heart to Krishna. Just like we live such guarded lives because we've been so bruised and disappointed and beat up in the world. And it's just an opportunity for us to just, you know what, Krishna, here's my heart. And I don't even, it doesn't require explanation. This is my heart and I'm just offering it to you. And just please pick me up and please use me as the instrument that you have planned for me, and allow me to understand divine will in my life. Help me see divine will unfolding in my life. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and just allow my heart to soften a little bit. And as Krishna says in this beautiful verse in the Gita, be satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. Be free from duality and not envy, and be steady in success and failure. And in that way, not become entangled even while carrying out, my daily life. So thank you, Jamuna, so much for being with us this week. We're definitely going to have you back more often. Super, super grateful for you and for everybody here listening. We love and appreciate you lots. We take a break over the weekend, but we'll be back next week on Monday. We got Jamuna Jaya. We got all heart emojis just flooding our Zoom screen right now. We got Brajarani coming joining us next week. So she'll be here on Monday, and looking forward to that as well. And I look forward to seeing you next time I see you, Jamuna. It's always wonderful. See you dancing last night at Thursday Night Kirtan. You were leading the dance charge. It's beautiful. And so thank you guys all so much. Really appreciate you all a ton. Please be well. Take care. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.